whenever there is a big change in the way that we work. Now, AI has done exactly that. It is going to change business models, it is going to change the skills, and it is going to change the organizations where people bring their skills to find jobs. All three of them are changing, which is why the Talent and Tech Show actually invites you to take a look behind the headlines and understand how to navigate your career better and how to upskill yourself for the artificial intelligence economy. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining us from. My name is Abhijit Bhaduri. I am the host of this podcast, which talks about everything about talent and technology across different sectors. Today, I have with me a guest who was at one point of time the CEO of NIIT and thereafter was the CEO of Bhartiya Urban, so has great experience in technology as well as real estate, and now actually is the managing director of CARE, KAER. I hope I've got that spelling right. And this is a company which actually works in cooling as a service. Seriously? And when I first heard about it, I always thought cooling as a service means instead of you fanning yourself like that, somebody else holds the fan and gets you there. That's what I thought, but I'm wrong. We will have my guest. So, Raghavan, what a delight to have you here. Thank you so much for being here. Was cooling as a service an accurate description?
Abhijit, thank you for having me on the show, first of all. I wish it was as simple as getting somebody else to fan for you. It's a very interesting thing that you're opening with this cooling as a service, because cooling as a service is a revolutionary business model. It's not just something in the technology space of cooling or execution of it. It's a bringing together of many things that go into what my colleague David McInnes calls it as servitization of businesses. I think this is something that's really been happening where people are moving away from ownership to usership. And this is what is happening in the area of large scale air conditioning, where we do cooling as a service.
What the ride sharing apps are doing, you don't need to own a car. You can just rent a car for like 30 minutes or just to go from place A to place B. This is what's happening, as you say, in cooling as well. That's air conditioning. I presume this is more focused on the enterprise thing, or is it also for homeowners? Which way does it?
It's at this point of time, it's primarily for what you call as enterprises or industries, like large malls, offices, hotels, hospitals, and such. It will take a long time for it to come down to unitary level of air conditioning.
I wanted to have Raghavan's expertise on a couple of things around talent. So what does talent look like when you step back and take the CEO's lens and look at it across sectors? And the reason why I wanted to talk about this is, I've been reading about a number of things that are happening in terms of the hiring at the college campus level. And I've been reading that a lot of the companies are not really hiring as many people as the freshers graduate, whether it's from the engineering colleges or the business schools. And all of them are today, with the exception of maybe a handful of them, most people are really struggling to find opportunities for people who are just about to enter the workforce. But at the same time, when you look at another change that is happening is that AI is also taking away some of the jobs, let's say even at the middle management level. And potentially one day it is also going to do some of the things that, the CEO would do, which is, to look for analysis, which they would potentially take somebody entering the workforce and instead do it with AI. It is with this backdrop that I thought I'm going to talk to Raghavan. That is it a sector specific thing? Is it a temporary phenomenon? How should we be making sense of this?
Abhijit, that is a very good setting that you have put for this whole conversation about how technology and business models are impacting the talent needs, or what I call as a landscape of talent. When I thought about this particular topic, I thought about it in a couple of different ways. One is where demand is the actual disruptor.
Mm-hmm.
Example is exactly what you said in terms of a ride sharing or quick delivery and stuff like that. I mean, demand, there is a demand, and technology is enabling that to happen. And with that, the talent landscape changes as to what kind of people are going to work for. And that is one of the important points, namely, technology is the disruptor, demand is the disruptor,
Okay.
technology enables it. Second one is where technology itself is the disruptor, right? Where
Hmm.
there is a response that the industry needs to give in order to cope up with the disruption that is happening because of technology. I think we are talking definitely these days about AI and what it can do to stuff. Third one, I would say, is basically disrupting is happening. There is a technology that is causing the disruption, but a new business model is born in order to
Hmm.
leverage and actually ride this technology disruption and really put out there another business model that is serving the same technology that is disrupting but creating a fantastic business model.
You talked about one, there is an inherent change in the demand. Second, you talked
Yeah,
about technology. And third, you're saying that upstream and downstream kind of things change because of, the shift in either of those two. It impacts not just the immediate company, but also the ecosystem in some sense. That's
absolutely.
where it sort of ends up. Okay, let's start with the first one. So, which is the first one you're going to tell us?
So
So,
the first one I would really talk about is the demand being the disruptor. So there was a need for people to not own stuff, just use. The ride sharing is an example, and with the urbanization happening, the traffic congestion. There is no city where people don't complain of traffic congestion. So there is always a need to move food, move people, move documents. So there's a whole lot of last mile delivery services that are happening. Now, if you look at these things, for example, you take Uber, for example. If you went to the website of Uber today, just now, the kind of jobs that are being advertised are not jobs for drivers, right? They're not
mm,
jobs for car maintenance people. This is completely different. Application supporters and senior machine learning engineer, software engineer for real time analytics, and things of that nature. Nobody's They're talking about a taxi company in a big way, right? But the
mm,
kind of jobs that are happening in these kinds of companies is very different from the traditional way that you would have seen. And in all the ride sharing or last mile delivery kind of companies, lot of technology is the lot of jobs are related to technology, because technology is the actual engine room of these companies, and everything to keep the technology going at scale is what is going to make the difference between success and failure for these kinds of companies. So there's a whole lot of different talent that ends up being needed by the phenomenon where the existing demand has been enabled by technology.
all of them are going to look for similar kinds of skills, so which means skills, let's say in machine learning, skills, let's say in, analytics, large language models, and each of them is going to create an opportunity for people. Is that going to be an opportunity for people with experience, or is it going to be, an opportunity in general? What do you think?
In my opinion, it's going to be across the board. Of course, the usual pyramid works. The beginning level jobs are going to be much more in these companies than you have positions for experienced people. Therefore, you will have need for talent across the board. To add to the kind of talent that will be required, big data analytics, real
Mhm.
time analysis of the usage patterns are all going to be very important in terms of what is going to make these organizations successful.
Doing is telling people where to shift resources, where to invest money. So the analytics field is going to continue to stay strong for at least in the immediate future that you can see. It is going to be something which is going to remain strong.
There's also going to be a lot of integration of multiple technologies. Look at the mapping technology, for example. At any given point of time, Uber is shouting out to zillions of people across the world that this particular road that you're trying to go is having traffic snarls. I'm giving you an alternative road. Do you want to pick it up or not? So it's like almost a person is watching out for you and giving
Mhm.
you that. Now, that cannot happen without massive data analysis and ability to interact and real time communications, right? People have to be able to do that, and that requires a strong technology backup in order to deliver that service to the users.
Some of the mapping software, Waymo and Apple and all of them, they do it. That you also get a warning that there's a speed trap ahead, or there is construction ahead, or the road is blocked by, a car which is broken down. So expect that to be there. they are also taking real time input from the drivers themselves. So the consumer is also in real time updating it and saying, okay, it used to be there, now it's no longer there. So they update it. And that's how, the warnings keep going on and off in real time. So it's a very powerful technology which is going to be there. That's an excellent example. So the first one that we saw is that there is a shift in the kind of skills that is there. So there is demand and supply of those skills. If the supply is inadequate, that demand is going to continue to rise. So, and that's an opportunity, so where it will be possible. What's the next option that you want to talk to us about?
The next one, the really big and loud that's happening today is AI. AI in itself is going to cause a whole lot of disruption in terms of skills. You have talked about in your forum several times. Basically, everybody believes that it's going to be a disruptor. People can approach it with a positive approach to leverage it. The truth is, a little bit of both is going to happen. But the interesting part, because we are talking about talent landscape, right? So the interesting part is really going to be what kind of new opportunities are going to come up. AI, people will be able to succeed if they're able to understand, pick up new skills, and actually apply it in real life. People who are concerned about talent should really be looking at what are the kinds of new skills that are being, that are going to be in demand. So how can people skill themselves up? Education institutions must prepare youngsters to get into those kinds of jobs, and there must be training institutes which do that. And people should also begin to do a lot of self-learning, right? I was just looking at the kind of jobs that are going to be available. Data scientists and analysts to interpret and make decisions from AI-generated data. I mean, people have been using decision-making tools, but they haven't really used from data that AI is generating, right? So AI and machine learning engineers, then AI ethicists. I mean, nobody, who would have ever thought a job like AI ethicist is going to come about? But today, the voices are getting louder about how to develop AI in such a way that the humankind is safe. Now, policymakers are not going to come and sit with you and regulate this. People who are in the business of developing this need to have people who are ethicists, give them the principles of it, and they should be able to guide this. So lots of jobs, virtual assistants and chatbot specialists, cybersecurity experts, AI trainers and educators. I mean, if AI is going to be the big thing, we don't have enough people to train people in AI. How are people going to be trained in AI, leave alone how they're going to deploy it? Even if you are beginning to learn how to use it, and then you go to the next level of being able to leverage it to deploy and actually create applications. So there are jobs like that. Then AI researchers and developers, then business intelligence and analyst specialists to analyze AI-generated data, AI-generated sense, and automation and process optimization. So AI is going to have a huge impact on multiple areas. And when you look at this is only a very short list, the kind of jobs that are going to become available. So the kind of jobs and the kind of people who are going to be working in multiple industries is changing. So this is a little bit, you asked a question, is it going to impact only some industries or across? In my opinion, this is going to be industry agnostic.
Sure.
And every industry is going to have an application that you will be able to leverage.
So, what I hear you say is, we are going to, be looking for a lot of data which is being synthesized by AI. So, to make sense of that data is going to be one kind of job. And so, when, we have always heard that Gen Z, when you look at their career, they are 65% of the jobs that they are going to be doing have not been invented yet. And so, if you think about that in terms of their lifetime, it certainly makes sense, because so many things that today you are talking about, these jobs didn't exist even maybe a year or 2 years back. So we never thought of prompt engineering as a job until we saw it happening with OpenAI. For the first time, you think of creating an iPhone, it sparks a new set of opportunities. So you would have app store as a service which comes up, that in turn creates opportunities for people who develop applications, or to maintain those applications, or to constantly update them, and when hardware changes and software changes, to make sure that your app is compatible. Look at the number of jobs that it creates in terms of that. The other piece to really think about what you said is, as you're looking at each of these changes, think about these in terms of not just the immediate bit, which is that when AI comes up, the jobs related to AI, but there are also soft skill related jobs, so just as you have hard skills, you have soft skills. AI ethicist is, I think every company is going to have an AI ethicist. Eventually, my prediction is every function is going to have its own ethicist role. So therefore, you will use a lot of AI data, and you will have ethics of that usage for finance, for human resources, for all of these. So expect to see a lot of those kind of roles as well.
iOS platform and Android platforms came and they got embedded into phones. Look at the whole industry of application developers that came into being. And application developers and in turn business models. We are only talking, every time we talk about a business model, we talk about Uber, but there are hundreds and hundreds of small businesses which have been enabled by the whole phenomenon of millions of developers going and developing applications that people are able to use. So you are right. The iPhone or iOS as a platform or Android as a platform triggered all this application development, which gave birth to millions of jobs around the world.
You will see that some of these jobs will create opportunities which are inside the organization, some of the jobs which are going to create opportunities outside of the organization by way of vendor roles and services and all of that. A great example of that is, talent management is going to actually get reshaped because every role is going to get divided into in terms of the tasks that are to be done, some of which will be done by AI, some of it in conjunction with AI, and some of them will remain human. But each one of them is going to create a training opportunity or upskilling opportunity. So when I look at the kind of opportunity that will come up as you create a new role, to be able to transition some of your existing talent into that, or to pick up these new technologies, you will need upskilling. So that's a big one as well.
Yeah,
What else?
I like what you're saying, Abhijit. See, if you look at today, let's say fast forward 2 years from today, and people would have adopted to AI for doing the fundamental compiling of the basic stuff, right? Now, I think there is a learning that happens when you try to do a research yourself and pull from different places and stack it up and then see what is appropriate, what's not appropriate. There's a learning, there's a process that you go through. Suddenly, people are going to skip that step. I have no idea what it is going to lead to in terms of these people's cognitive abilities and subsequent utilization of this data and even validity checking, etc. How is it going to happen? We don't know, but that's going to be a reality, and hopefully, people will have other ways in which they can develop their cognitive abilities. And what you talked about, leadership development and talent management, is going to become an important issue because people will be motivated to skip a few steps. They shouldn't falter and fall.
And of course, when you think about it, another way to think about jobs is also that things which are good and things which are bad. So negative usages also create opportunities. So, for example, you have so much of data which is going into social media that it also makes it possible for somebody to hack your social media profile. So, cybersecurity as an industry is going to thrive. That's another big opportunity which is going to happen regardless. Also, if you look at it, the law pertaining to regulations for all of this is, so there are going to be opportunities for lawyers who have these specific specializations. So you will see narrow sliver specializations coming up in each of these areas as opportunities, and the generalists who are able to string all of it together. So both kinds of opportunities will be there.
When GST was introduced in the country, in India, there were a lot of, it took a while for it to be settling down because so many interpretations and nuances were there. Now we're talking about AI, and all kinds of concerns and conversations are going on around AI. And there are going to be legal ramifications, regulatory ramifications, and it requires real creativity and ability to foresee the future and ability to understand the power of what we're creating and the dangers of it in order to put law into place. And that is a huge area for a huge body of knowledge that needs to develop, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So we've talked about some of the new business models that have come up, and therefore the need for talent changes. We've also talked about how new technology will start to create opportunities. What else do you think is going to change the talent
I,
landscape?
yeah, I think another interesting thing that has happened right under our noses is the whole idea of business model
Hmm.
that piggybacking on a humongous technology development. Again, I go back to AI.
Hmm.
So we all know how successful NVIDIA as a company has been.
Right.
Now, people roughly associate media and AI, but really, what in my opinion NVIDIA has done is really create a business model around their product of chips. So, in other words, what they did was to embed the software solutions that different industries, whether it's healthcare, automotive, or manufacturing, would be requiring, and have them already part of their chip solutions so that these chips are going with the software embedded. So, all these developers are starting with a head start. So if you look at the market capitalization of Nvidia in the last 4 years, from under, my opinion, about less than $230 billion, now you're talking about 3.1 trillion
Trillion.
number,
Hey, how
right?
many zeros are there in trillion?
Which is the last time I checked, there were nine. Yeah, okay. But
Sorry,
only one
I
thing I know is 3.1 billion, $3.1 trillion is, if it was a country, it'll be the sixth largest economy in the world.
whoa.
Just think about it. And how, because of AI as a phenomenal technology and their business model to embed software solutions into their chips, and then also parallelly, I mean, they didn't do it just with this, they also enabled the supply chains to be able to produce this in volume, at volume. So the combination of all this has really resulted in a phenomenal value for the company, the people who are engaged in development of applications of the AI. So it's been great. Been great.
So what you are talking about is that when you have a company like Nvidia, it's created different kinds of opportunities as they create specialized chips, and we are seeing that Elon Musk is taking a bunch of them for X, or Twitter, which formerly Twitter, and also for Tesla. So expect to see competitors for Nvidia develop similar kind of chips for use in healthcare. So that's going to create opportunities for those kind of specialists. That I
Yeah.
work with chip design for healthcare itself, and those are the kind of opportunities that will come up for
Absolutely.
automobiles, for social media platforms, and all of that. When you look at the kind of upstream and downstream impact, where do you see opportunities for educational institutions? You have led a very large educational institution like NIIT. What does it mean for educational institutions? How should they be looking to upskill people? What should they be doing? What are the opportunities? If you were to start an upskilling company today, what should they be doing by way of thinking about a business plan?
I think there is a whole suite of technologies that we need to have people learn. And I would not throw away the fundamental and yet to be fully matured technologies like machine learning or big data analytics. There's a lot of stuff which is very important and integral, and even integral and very relevant to being able to leverage AI. So AI, much as big and revolutionary it is, education institutions cannot abandon the job of training people in a multitude of technologies that are enabling technologies to be able to leverage AI as a phenomenon. So I think it's important to do two, three things. One is educational institutions need to get a lot more, practice based. People will not have the time to enter into a 2 year program or a 1.5 year program and then learn something, because by the time they come out, things have already changed. So it's got to be a lot more hands on. It's got to be much shorter durations and very tied in with the actual industry, so that actually when these people who are trained in this are coming out, There are
Hmm.
jobs waiting for them. There are jobs. It's just that we need to match the skill, the training, and the jobs together to make this training business successful.
And which brings me to the final question, which is where this entire thing began. Thank you so much for clarifying all those shifts in the talent landscape. Raghavan, we see everywhere in every country the entry level jobs are diminishing. Yeah, so there are so many people from great institutions who are struggling to find opportunities. Is this a temporary phenomenon? Is this something which is here to stay? Is this something that, in view of all what you talked about in the talent landscape, would you summarize for me why is the fresher landscape where it is? Why are people not hiring from the colleges?
I think it's certainly an important question, and the question for which we all got together today to talk about the whole talent landscape, Abhijit. I think this is not the first time that fresher hiring has been low. You asked the question, is it there to stay or is it a temporary phenomenon? I would only say it's a very cyclical phenomenon. Many years in the past, we have faced the same kind of situation. So I would say the underlying reason is the mismatch between education and employability. Lots of studies have been done in the past which says that not more than 25 to 30% of college graduates are really employable in the real sense. So, employability needs skills, something that the education institutions are not spending a whole lot of time imparting the skills. Even if they are doing it, they are not doing it in ample numbers, they are not doing it with adequate depth, they are not doing it with enough of collaboration with the industry. Today, employers, even more than earlier, are in a great hurry because the developments that are happening around us are happening in a hurry and there is no time to really dish out the solutions to the end consumers. So they are in a great hurry to get ready made talent on board and have them hit the ground running. Whereas the graduates coming out of colleges are not that material yet. So, this is a phenomenon which is not new, but something that has got accentuated with the speed with which technology developments, the shifting of talent landscape is happening.
Which is no different from what would have happened to finance graduates, let's say after the financial crisis in 2008. People who were graduating with degrees in finance had a difficult time finding opportunities. And now, then if you look at it, similar kind of shifts. But I think what has happened is the developments are so rapid. Employers have very little time, as you mentioned, to skill up people. So therefore, when you get people who are ready made, who are skilled already, the employer chooses to focus on hiring them. So the more employable you are, the easier it is for you to find the opportunities. So, what are two or three things that people can do to become more
Yeah,
employable? What can freshers do to be more employable in the market?
I think we have to first of all recognize that this is a very systemic problem. The solution really needs for coming together of more than one stakeholder. I think I would call out three stakeholders and their responsibilities in this. First of all, the employers cannot abdicate their responsibility to train. If you are getting into a new area of technology, you cannot really hope that academic institutions will turn out graduates who are ready to come and hit the ground running and get take the project and be onboarded and so on. There is a phenomenal responsibility for the employers. Abhijit, if you look at the way IT industry in India has grown, early years, and in fact, for several years, they used to go to college campuses and recruit them, build some huge training campuses, onboard them, pay them salary, look after them, train them, and keep them in benches before they are put on to certain skills. But what has really given this a little bit of a challenge for the employers is that the kind of skills have got one too many, this got fragmented. It's no longer just you do JavaScript and you need zillions of JavaScript coders, right? You need multiple disciplines. So employers are also facing a problem, but at the same time, I would say that they have to take on a greater responsibility to really train them because you are not going to get ready-made talent. If you don't get them today, you're not going to have 3 years experience ready-made talent 3 years from now, right? It's not possible. The second thing I would say is what you alluded to, and you've been saying this You've been a very strong advocate across many, many episodes and many conversations. That is about the responsibility of the individual to skill themselves up. Today, more than ever, calls the graduates to pay for, invest the time, and actually skill themselves up. They have to make up their mind. They can't be saying, oh, should I do this or should I do that? Pick a battle, go to war with it, get yourself trained and get yourself skilled and become employable. Then complain that I'm employed or not employed, right? So you've got a responsibility on the shoulders of the graduates themselves. The third thing I would say is very important: education institutions. They have to invest in developing curriculum that is focused on skilling the individuals, have a very close association with the industry, and develop skills that when graduates come out, you're not only giving them fundamental education of theory and concepts, but you're also making them job ready. In this context, I would say that nobody articulates it better than Manish Sabarwal, who's the founder of TeamLease. He
Yeah.
really articulates it, and he's a very strong proponent for apprenticeship. I think the real solution is in creating a very, very good apprenticeship program in the country where graduates come out, employers have an easier way of getting them inducted, skill them up, and serve their own needs. And I think that is where the real solution lies. So the three stakeholders, the graduates themselves, education institutions, and the employers all have a role to play in resolving this problem.
Thank you so very much. I mean, this has been absolutely enlightening for me. If I were to just simply summarize for the benefit of our listeners, so you talked about four kinds of reasons. If I were to really start categorizing, one would be that there is a new business model which comes up, and so therefore there's a need for talent which is different from what it used to be. A good example of that is AI. When it comes up, it creates the opportunity for those kind of specializations. We also talked about applications, that will have to be maintained, changed. So those are some of the opportunities which will come up. The third opportunity set, as I look at it, is the upstream and downstream impact of the organization. So what it does to the vendors who are providing those services, the people who are internal to the organization, what does it do for them, the upskilling opportunity for them. And also you talked about fluid business models, that to be agile enough to stay connected to all the shifts, to make sure that as the opportunities come up, you're skilling up your talent so much that they are able to take charge of these opportunities. So that's the very exciting world that we live in. Thanks a million for making us aware, and we look forward to having you back again on another episode of Talent and Technology.